Welcome back to the Property Auctions Podcast, where we break down what's really happening in the auction market and how investors are finding opportunity in today's conditions. I'm your host. My name is Dominic Farrell, and I'm the author of the UK's #1 best-selling property investment book about property auctions called Property Auctions, Repossessions, Bankruptcies and Bargain Properties, now in its fourth edition, published in March 2026, and is available in all good bookstores and amazon.co.uk. I have three topics in this episode. The first one is we'll do a quick update on the current auction market, which you may find surprising. We'll look at a short lease acquisition at auction. And we'll also look at a Landlord and Tenant Act issue, which created an opportunity. So yesterday there was an auction and the results are very interesting. Indeed, my property auction school community is very much active on a bank holiday discussing this right now. Two active and very successful property auction buyers shared their experience. One had a pre-auction offer turned down only for the seller to increase the guide and reserve price prior to auction, yet the property failed to sell. He's now made a post-auction offer, which is lower than his pre-auction original bid. Here are the numbers. There were 112 lots. 46 sold, 12 were withdrawn, and 54 were unsold. This is unprecedented in recent years, and for the last few months at least, the last 2 quarters I've been saying that a shift is coming. That shift became visible yesterday, likely accelerated by broader political and economic influences at home and abroad. The war in the Middle East, higher mortgage interest rates, higher inflation and fuel prices, uncertainty and fear are all factors contributing to a fall in confidence. Markets are built on confidence, and when that weakness arises, opportunities beckon. I predicted that 2026 could be the most exciting period for distressed assets since 2008, which interestingly is when my book starts. If this situation continues and forms a trend, then I'll challenge Mystic Mega Self to a prediction contest. So, these are exciting times for some, not so for others. But as the saying goes, who dares wins in property auctions, but clearly who dares wins if they do the research, due diligence, and know what they are doing. What is still very true is that anything with complexity, legal, structural, or tenancy related issues is where the real value lies. And what's really interesting is that clean vanilla investments are still attracting strong competition. You've heard me refer to the head or crowd before now, and anything that's relatively simple, prices driven up by many people who don't understand that value at auction is with properties that have problems that you can fix. The live auctions invariably ends up with two opponents slugging it out to see who can pay the most for a lot. I kid you not. I see it often. Now let's talk about these two stunning deals executed by members of my property auctions mentorship group. The first one is a classic short lease opportunity. So, coming back to what we have just discussed, many investors tend to chase vanilla properties at auction, those that sit comfortably within their understanding and knowledge. And as a result, they end up competing heavily, often pushing up prices to even above market value. This completely undermines the objective of acquiring distressed assets that offer built-in equity and strong income. This happens largely due to a lack of knowledge and the experience and confidence to step outside the conventional approach. Instead, they rely on limited understanding or even guidance from property sourcing agents who are incentivized to secure purchases. Otherwise, they don't get paid. We've seen a lot of this at auction recently. Within just 6 weeks of working with Neil, he was evaluating a short lease opportunity at auction. It had been overlooked by investors either because it fell outside their comfort zone or they simply didn't understand the opportunity. Neil secured the property prior to auction. He also negotiated away some of the terms and the special conditions of sale. Remember, completion dates and fees are up for grabs. Another mentee who features on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/at distressed assets, recently negotiated away fees at auction in order to close an unsold lot. Now remember, the balance of power after auction moves decisively to the buyer, particularly if the seller must sell for a particular reason, such as paying off debts or moving house. So, in this particular case, we were also able to speak directly with the seller and meet her in person at the property. This was key, as that always gives you a valuable understanding about their motivation and psychology. In this case, she just wanted out as the Renters' Rights Act is coming into force on the 1st of May 2026, and this was the last straw for her. So we knew the sale was genuine, as the seller was very convincing and our due diligence suggested there were no issues we couldn't fix. So, having read the legal pack, Neil was content to proceed. The final piece of the jigsaw was to get a solicitor to review the legal pack, not AI. AI has its uses, and indeed, I've been impressed at how some of my mentees have adapted various platforms such as Chat and Claude, but a solicitor is insured if they make a mistake. AI is not. So, in essence, this was a classic problem property, exactly the type we specialize in. Our approach is very simple: avoid the herd and solve problems to unlock significant value. So, what was the opportunity? Well, it was a short lease of 83 years, but crucially above 80 years when something called marriage value comes into play. In essence, this makes it more expensive to extend the lease. Further, the Commonhold and Leasehold Reform Bill is looking to change this and other concerns such as increasing ground rents. There is also an option to get around the 2-year rule of ownership by asking the current seller for help. Again, not critical, but helpful. Additionally, there is no ground rent or service charges, but there is a requirement to cover a share of the insurance. There are no common areas, and all apartments have their own separate entrance. There is scope to develop the roof space, as the identical property next to it has done so and sold in 2025 for £150,000. The current valuation estimate for the acquisition property is 100,000 to 120,000, and the price paid prior to auction after negotiation was just £58,500. Once extended, the property effectively moves into a different pricing bracket. The key success factor with this type of deal is legal advice. Everything else flows from that. You can see the value. It's incredible, and it's a classic example of why buying wholesale property auctions and fixing problems to unlock value is much better than buying retail to estate agents, Rightmove, and Zoopla. The second opportunity acquired by Adam was a freehold house in an excellent condition and tenanted by a particularly lovely older lady. There was a clear Tenant and Landlord Act problem, which I won't elaborate on, but suffice it to say we made a plan, discussed it with the tenant, and since been back after exchange of contracts to begin the execution of it. Undoubtedly, the herd or crowd found it all too difficult and gave it and the previous example a wide berth. That's the essence of our approach to property auctions. And you'll see lots of examples of this in my book, which goes back many years. If you only take one thing away from this podcast, then it's avoid the herd and target properties with problems you can fix. So, two very different deals, but the same underlying principle. The best opportunities at auction are rarely straightforward. Whether it's a short lease or a tricky tenancy situation, the investors who win are the ones willing to lean into complexity, backed by knowledge, preparation, and the guidance of someone experienced in these matters. If you're looking at auction deals right now, ask yourself, what is everyone else avoiding? And do I understand it well enough to take advantage? Thanks for listening to the Property Auctions Podcast with me, Dominic Farrell. If you found this useful, make sure to subscribe and share it with someone who's actively investing. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening.